Okay, cool. All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Anam. I'm a student worker at the IgnitED Labs at ASU. We're located in the Farmer Education Building in Tempe on the first floor. And yeah, so a little bit of background on the IgnitED Labs. We're kind of a little makerspace here. Uh, I'm currently in the podcasting room. We have a bunch of microphones. You can use high quality ones. And it's a bit soundproofed, although it sounds like there's cheering next door for some reason. Um, Additionally, we have a computer room with some virtual reality headsets, and we have uh, like a tinkering room with some Raspberry Pis, little circuits called Little Bits that you can just plug and play, and sphere robots. And then we also have a 3D printing and laser cutting room. So if you're interested in coming here to use any of that, or specifically the podcasting room for your class, you can just schedule some time with us online. Just search up IgnitED Labs at ASU. And then some background on me. So I've actually been producing my own rap songs for quite a few years. So I have a bit of experience with audio editing, mostly with Ableton, but it's kind of similar to Adobe Audition. So yeah, let's get started. First thing, of course, you want to do is open up Adobe Audition. Uh, and again, I think Ryan told you this, but if you can't follow along with me, just try to focus on mainly the main big picture of what I'm doing. It's more about the process that's important, not just following my steps. But anyways, once you open it, you'll get this blank view. You can't really do anything here, but first thing we're gonna want to do is go to Edit and Preferences. So here we can set our microphone settings. So we can either click on general or we can just go straight to audio hardware. I'll just go to audio hardware. Again, that was edit preferences, audio hardware. And then this is where you select your input and output. So my input, I'm using a microphone that's connected to a Focusrite, which is this little audio interface. So that's why I selected that, but you can use your built-in laptop or computer microphone, and then speakers. I'm just gonna play it from my regular speakers, but of course you can connect some bigger speakers or whatnot and select that here. Okay, so that's good. So we'll click OK. And now we are ready to start a project. So there are two different types of views, main views, I would say. There's waveform and multi-track. So waveform is just you're going to be looking at one audio waveform specifically, whereas multi-track, you can organize a bunch of different waveforms, and that way you can make a song or an organized podcast. So mainly you're going to be using this, but I'll just show you what waveform looks like. So if I click this record button, it's going to say new audio file. So I can just name it whatever. For channels, you're going to want to select mono if you have one microphone. Stereo would be like if you had two microphones, one for left audio and one for right audio. But I just have one, so I'm going to click mono. Click OK, and then see as I start talking, the waveform is picking up. And then OK, and then see as I start talking, the waveform is picking up. I just press space to play it back. But here you can do some little edits to the waveform, but I'm not going to get into that. So let's close that. Let me open up multi-track. So you could just click this multi-track right here. And then you name it whatever you want. Again, make sure that mono is selected. Interestingly, you can choose a template. It'll come with all the different effects you might want to use for a specific purpose, such as podcasting. And it will lay out your multi-track list, as we'll see, specifically for podcasting, but you don't have to do that. For here, I'm just going to show you how to do it from scratch. So I'm going to leave it as none, and then I'm going to click OK. So if you're following along, hopefully this is what you'll see now. I'll just explain a little bit of what each window is. So here is the multi-track window. As you can see, we have the tracks listed. They're just empty for now, but we have 6 tracks. We can add more if we want, but that should be enough for our purposes. And then we have the mix track. So basically, when you record audio files, you can place them in these tracks and organize it that way. And then the mix will, for the mix track, you can apply settings that will apply to the whole overall sound. In case you want to add more tracks, you can go to multi-track at the top, tracks, and then add tracks. You can also delete or duplicate a track. So that's the multi-track view. Here you have the file explorer. As you can see, the session I just created is saved here. And also, as we will see, if I record anything, it would automatically save here, which is helpful in case we delete an audio and then realize we want it again. It's just saved here, so we can drag it back in. With this folder icon, we can open files, and this is useful if we want to import some sounds. Yeah, that's that basically. Then here we have the effects rack. So I'll get more into that later, but basically you can apply effects like echo or reverb to your audio. So for track effects, that will apply to whatever track you have currently selected. And for clip effects, it would apply to whatever audio clip you currently have selected. Okay, and then lastly, I'll mention this essential sound window. In case you don't have that window, you can go to the top window and then check essential sound. So this is just something Adobe Audition provides that helps you add some preset effects to your track/clips. So in case I had an audio clip, I could just click the dialogue button and then select audio presets such as podcasting. Okay, so yeah, that is the main window views. At this point, does anybody have any questions?
I think we're good.
Okay.
I just want to point out, because this was a sticky issue in the other class. So there's 2 things that we're looking at here on the dashboard, which is the waveform tab in the top left and the multi-track editor. The waveform is where you will have recordable audio files that you'll be able to see. It just means you'll be able to see the sound wave of what you recorded, and then you can drag it into the multi-track editor. So if you record your voice on the waveform, you can then pull it into whichever track you want. And for our purposes, the top track is going to be where we put our voice. And for the self-guided piece from Adobe, that recording is already provided for you. So we'll just drag that in there. You don't have to record anything. But those are the 2 things that we're looking at. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So at this point, we're ready to record. Since we already set up our microphone settings, we can just check that the audio is coming in. So I'll go to this first track and then click this R button, which stands for record. Now, as you can see, these bars go up and down depending on my voice volume. So that's working pretty nicely. And then if I click this record, it will record my audio into the track. So as you can see, as I talk, the waveform is appearing. and then I can just click space to stop it, or I can click this record button again. Okay, so now if I want to play this back, I'll want to drag this little timestamp navigator thing, cursor, to the beginning. That's one way of doing it. You might or you may not be able to hear it, but if you drag the audio back, you can hear the audio scrolling, just in case you ever want to look more closely or listen more closely to your audio. But another way to go back to the beginning of a clip or a track is just pressing this at the bottom by same level as the record button. I just click this move playhead to previous and it'll just snap. So I like that a little bit more. So now
As you can
if we
see, as
play
I
it,
talk, the waveform is appearing.
you can hear it. It's a bit quiet, I think. So I'm going to increase the volume. But before we get to that, it also looks kind of small. So in order to increase that, what we can do is drag this and it will stretch out uh, the audio view. And then we can also make this taller by scrolling in on this scroll bar. Also, if you just want to click buttons to do this, it's on the recording tab. Zoom in, zoom out, stretch. So many ways to do it, but yes, this will give us a better look. And then I will just increase the volume. So this bar here, this line, it represents the volume. So as you can see, I'm hovering over it and it says the volume. So right now it says if I click on it, it says 0 decibels. That's just the default volume, whatever you recorded it at. But if I increase it, it'll increase the decibels. If I decrease it, it'll decrease the decibels. So let's increase it.
So, as you can see,
And now
as
it's
I
a little
talk,
bit louder.
the waveform is appearing.
Okay, so that's recording audio and looking at the waveform better. Of course, you can go to the waveform view. But yeah, at this point, with my audio tested, I am ready to start my podcast or start recording my podcast. So, quick note, again, the audio has automatically saved to the file folder. So if I just want to add it back in, I can just drag it. But anyways, I am going to introduce my podcast. So welcome to the IgnitED Labs podcast, where we discuss technology that you can use in education. In today's episode, we will look at Adobe Audition. Let's get started. Okay, that's a decent intro. I guess not really worried about what I'm saying. Okay, so again, it's recorded here, saved here. All right, so now I will move on to the effects rack. So for podcasting, there aren't too many effects that you usually add, but depending on how noisy our environment is, we might want to add some things to clean it up. So down in this effects window, I'll click this right button here, and it'll bring up all the possible effects that I can add. You can just hover over them and see what they are. So for noise, we'll want to go to noise reduction and then denoise. And it'll bring up this window. This is just showing what the effects are being added to your audio. So the blue is the audio that I'm currently saying or that I'm currently playing. And the red is the noise that it's removing. So if I play this,
Welcome to the IgnitED Labs podcast.
it'll just be removing a little bit of noise. And we can actually try to hear this a bit more. Let me again raise the volume here.
Where we
And to see what noise it's removing, we can click this output noise only. So it'll only output the noise that's removed. If you raise the volume, you might be able to hear that there's some noise that it's removing, which is good. And then we'll just deselect that once we're happy with it. Forgot to mention, if we want to open up this effects again, we can just double click here and we can change the amount of noise that's being removed. So 100% means it'll remove as much noise as possible. And then 0% means it's removing no noise. And then we can change the gain to change the sensitivity. So the more I increase it, the more sensitive it will be, I believe. But yeah, you can just mess around with these settings and really tune the effect. So another thing we might want to add, which personally I find helpful, is the de-esser. I'm not going to go too much into this, but sometimes you might notice that when you say S's in your words, it creates like a hissing noise, just the way we talk. Sometimes that can be annoying, like sharp on the ears. So with this, we can remove it. So those are some effects we can add. And going back to this multi-track view, I actually forgot to clip this. As you notice when I play it,
welcome
there's some pauses before I start, and there's some pauses in between my words. I can clean that up. So going back to here, we can drag to where we want the break to happen, and then we can do right click and split, or we can do Control K. So right click, split. This will separate your clip now into 2 clips wherever you indicated. So then we can just delete this gap and drag it over to the start.
Welcome to the IgnitED Labs podcast.
So now it just starts at the beginning pretty nicely. Let's see if there's any more pauses.
IgnitED Labs podcast, where we discuss technology that you can use in education. In today's episode, we will
Okay, let's say I think this is too long of a break or something. Again, I can do right click split here. But I want this little gap to be removed. So I'll do again, right click split here. And then I can just delete this and drag this over. But a quicker way to do that is using a different kind of mouse cursor. So right now we have the move tool selected. And we know that by up here on the same level as this multi-tracking waveform, we can see we have the move tool selected. Another useful tool, which I'm going to use, is this time selection tool, which is on the right. So now we can drag and select a range of time. So I'm going to select this range of time. And now if I do right click split, it will automatically trim both ends. So now I can easily delete this if I want. Another useful use for this time selection tool is, say we want to focus on one section of audio, if we're like adding a special effect or something to it, and or we want to like focus on a specific area of lots of noise. So we can use this time selection tool to loop a section of audio. So I will drag this audio. And then if I go down next to this record button, I can click loop playback. So now
In today's episode,
it loops the period of time that I selected. So yeah, that's kind of useful. But I'll go back to the move tool now. And let me just see if there's any more. No, I think there's some.
Adobe Audition.
That's pretty good.
Let's get started.
Yeah. Okay. So, of course, if we want to add another track of audio, we can either, or another clip of audio, we can either add this clip to the first track where we have this recording already, and we can just record again, and it will start wherever I selected it. In case we didn't like this audio or a section of it, we can actually just record right over it. Again, by clicking this record button. And as you can see, it just straight up records over it. So that's useful if you don't want to do the whole take over again. If you want to add audio to a second track, select the second track and then click the record button. But as you'll notice, it will record to both tracks since this still has the R button selected. So let me just deselect that. And now again, I can start recording and it will go to the second track. So this way you can organize your audio files. But at this point, I am going to add some intro music. I believe you guys have some audio files like music already stashed away, but in case you want to look online, you can just go to Google and search up like royalty-free music. Royalty-free is good in case you ever want to put this out in the world. This way you don't get sued or it doesn't get taken down, something like that. But if you're just producing for like your class or a limited audience, it doesn't really matter. But a website that I like is Pixabay. And here we can organize for filter by the type of sound that we want, and then just look through the audio they have. So we can preview it by clicking this play, and if we like it, we can click the download button. So if I click the download button, it will download, but it also say what type of license it has, and that some of them are registered with YouTube Content ID. Basically, this YouTube Content ID just means you can't monetize your YouTube video if you use their song. But it's okay. It just, I mean, it's not okay. Don't monetize it. But before you use things, just take a quick glance at the license, and it shouldn't be a problem if you follow it. But I like this sound, so let me download that. Okay, and now I'll go back to Adobe Audition. So I will go to the File Explorer now, open File, and then select the audio that I just downloaded. Now, as you can see, the audio is in our File Explorer, and it will automatically bring up the waveform editor. So we could just play it, make sure that's the one we want. And then we can switch back to the multi-track view. So now it's as simple as just dragging it from the File Explorer to the multi-track view. I'll put it in track 2. And it might give you a little warning about the sample rate. Just click OK.
Welcome to the IgnitED
Now,
Labs
I'll
podcast,
play it,
where
both
we
audio and
discuss technology
simultaneously,
that you
and it already sounds pretty cool. uh, I am going to make it a little more cinematic by zooming in and fading this audio in. It's already a little bit faded in, but I can make it even more. So if you, under the audio name, you see this square. If we hover over it, it'll say fade in. So we can just drag this out, and the line shows the volume basically. So it'll start at 0, or I think this is actually like negative infinity or something, and then go up to the 0 decibels that it is normally at.
Welcome to the IgnitED Labs podcast, where we discuss technology that you can use in education.
So yeah, that's pretty cool. Um, so I know just by looking at the waveform, and also because I've heard this before, that the beat drop is right here, and it'd be kind of cool if I coincide at the end of my intro to the beat drop. So I'll just drag this audio over. Let's see. Okay.
We will look at Adobe Audition.
That's a bit too loud, so let me lower the volume.
Let's get started.
Okay. Um, Now that's pretty cool. Um, we can make this even more interesting by cutting out this little section where I say let's get started, like making it um, really pop. So I'll go to this time selection tool and cut this audio out. Let me zoom a little bit more. I just pressed delete right there.
Let's get started.
Yeah, so you can make it really interesting if you want. Again, I could even add something like reverb, um, echo, stuff like that, just to make it a little more interesting and really separate your podcast from other things. One more thing I will mention is keyframing your volume. So, keyframes just allow you to edit clips easier instead of, for example, if I wanted to edit this volume and make this louder than normal, um, normally what you could do is split this audio and then increase this decibel. But with keyframes, we can just do that pretty simply. So I will zoom in on section, and then right over here, I'm just going to click on the volume line. And when I click on it, it will add this little square diamond shape, and that's a keyframe. So if I add another keyframe here and drag it up, I can increase the volume at this section. And again, this is a graph, just like the fade in line. This is a graph of the volume, so it will be linearly increasing here. What I want to do is just have like a step increase, just instantly increase the volume. So I'm going to add another keyframe in the middle and drag it up and then drag it over. So I've just created a step function basically. Now
Let's get started.
it will just jump in volume instantly. So yeah, that I think is the basics of using Adobe Audition. Sorry, I might have went through that a little fast, but does anybody have any questions on what I went over?
Doesn't look like it. It's a good place for us to pause and then I'm gonna lead them through an activity where they actually have a pre-recorded piece to pull in. So I think that's a good overview of the navigation.
Okay. Well, yeah, thank you for having me and for listening to my little demo. Again, if you're interested in coming in and using our podcasting equipment or any of our electronics equipments, just head over to our website and just Google IgnitED Labs and schedule a reservation with us, and we'll be happy to help. All right. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, Anam. Take care.
You too.